In the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful, welcome to another session of Finding God. It has been a month since I've been away, and it's mostly due to my fault of bad planning and a lot of events happening at the same time. And now I'm trying to actively be back on track. Obviously, when these sessions will be watched back to back, um, by hopefully billions of people over the course of YouTube and social media history, um, this gap wouldn't be noticed, but I noticed it. And every Friday and Saturday, I would think, oh, I should go live and I should do the next chapter, but the time just didn't allow it. And it's bad management on my part. But now I'm back and I hope to continue to be back in full swing. Today we're looking at Surah Ad-Dukhan, which means the smoke, 64th chapter in terms of Revelation. We're still 22 chapters away from leaving Mecca. And I suppose I would be able to reach the migration by the end of this year. Let's see. But till that time, we are in Mecca and we're covering the verses that took place, that were revealed to the Prophet in Mecca. And Surah Dukhan is about the smoke, and the smoke will be explained in verse 10. And it's not a very long one, it's around 59 verses. So it's a compact chapter. And again, you'll see similar tropes which we've covered. Reference to Moses, reference to the Day of Judgment, right actions, wrong actions, more along those lines. So it pretty much fits into the rhetorical and narrative style of middle Meccan period, which is around 615, 620, 615 AD, around that time, which we've discussed before. So I'm going to cover this section of the chapter today, probably the whole chapter in one sitting. Bismillah. In the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful. Hamim, one of those muqattiyat, haruf muqattiyat, or words which are known just between God and God alone. And we don't know their meanings. I hope on the Day of Judgment God tells us, but also I hope on the Day of Judgment none of us are suffering through any type of torment. That's the hope. By the manifest book that makes things clear. We sent it, the Quran, down on a blessed night. This night is called the Laylatul Qadr, or the night of Al-Qadr, in the month of Ramadan, the 9th month of the Islamic calendar. Yes, all Muslims know this. And for those who don't follow the faith and are not familiar, Islam follows the lunar calendar, so it's a different date every year. So I can't tell you the Gregorian or solar calendar date, but in the lunar calendar, it falls in the 9th month, which is Ramadan, the month of fasting, and it falls in the last 21 to 27 date. So 21, 23, 25, or 27 typically falls under that time. Verily, we are ever warning mankind that atonement will reach those who disbelieve in our oneness. Yes, that's true. They are ever warning. And therein, that night is decreed every matter of ordainment. So in this night that I'm referring to is a matter, I refer to this footnote, the matters of death, birth, provision, calamities for the whole coming year. So that night is a special night, the Laylatul Qadr. As a command or the decree from us, verily we are ever sending the messengers. As a mercy from your Lord, verily he is the all-hearer, the all-knower. The Lord of the heavens and the earth and all that is between them, and if you but have a faith with certainty. See, we've covered this rhetoric before. It's God setting the stage. This is what's happening. God is setting the stage and then making the case. La ilaha illa huwa. No, none has the right to be worshipped but He. It is He who gives life and causes death, your Lord and the Lord of your forefathers. Nay, they play about and doubt. Then wait ye for the day when the sky will bring forth a visible smoke, covering the people. This is a painful torment. This smoke is what the chapter is named after. It is smoke, probably, or most probably, emanating from the hellfire or resurrection, or from the fires that will take place. But it is a smoke. Others have described it as a haze. One can certainly derive metaphors, allegories, analogies from this haze, lack of clarity, confusion, ambiguity. You can certainly imagine that sort of a world with the sky. Like I'm looking at a Montreal sky right now, and it's pretty laden in clouds. It's quite covered in clouds, but we won't call it hazy or smoky. We'd say it's cloudy. But imagine if it's smoked and we're used to seeing clouds, but a smoke or a fog we're not really used to seeing. Wait you for the day when the sky will bring forth a visible smoke covering the people. This is a painful torment. So that smoke, like clouds, are harmless. Oh, I see a cloud. Yes, they can rain like anything, but typically a cloud is considered to be something nice. That's why when you paint a scenery, you say, oh, look how lovely and puffy the clouds are. But a smoke, that's why the chapter is called Ad-Duhan. Smoke. That's not a pleasant visual. They will say, our Lord, remove the torment from us. Really, we shall become believers. Shall become. See, the problem is here. We shall become. Stop punishing me and I will listen to you. But had you listened to me, there would have been no punishment. You see, it's the wrong way around. How could there be for them an admonition as the time when the torment has reached them, when a messenger explaining things clearly had already come to them? Then they had turned away from him and said, he is one taught by a human being or a madman. So this is documented in the Quranic text and in the Hadith and in stories and stories. But this is human behavior. When somebody comes to you with knowledge or truth, the mob typically calls them a madman. If you don't believe me, just look at the state of American politics or Canadian politics. Just look at the state of politics. Just look at the state of the news media. Just look at the state of any new discovery happening. Most people would call, oh, you're a madman, you don't know what you're talking about. We haven't really evolved that much. Honestly speaking, we haven't really evolved. We're still very animalistic in our behavior. So when Muhammad, peace be upon him, came to them with the message of God, oh, you're a madman, be done, cast out, and so forth. Verily we shall remove the torment for a while, verily you will revert to disbelief. Yes. Even though, while during the punishment, the person is saying, no, just stop punishing me, stop tormenting me, I'll come back to the right path. When the torment is removed, very quickly they'll go back to their old ways. And nobody knows that better than God. Because human beings are creatures of habit. I'll give you an example. One of my friends here in Montreal, he smokes. He rolls his own cigarette and he smokes. And I join him, I sit while he smokes. And I'm sitting there because I sit on the side and he's standing. And every time he stands, he smokes and he looks around at people or at the scene. Even when he's talking to me, briefly look at me and then go back to smoking. And I'd say, why don't you sit? I'm sitting and just sit here. He's like, no, I feel more comfortable this way. Okay. And the more I observed, the more I saw, most people are locked into their comfortable habits, into their ruts, and they end up behaving and thinking and speaking in that manner in which they are comfortable. And if you act in a manner which is tied to your comfort, and if you speak in a manner which is tied to your comfort, I believe you will also think in a manner which is tied to your comfort. So if you are stuck in a rut physical, verbal, mental, emotional, when you are confronted with a new idea, you wouldn't say, "Oh, wow, what a wonderful idea. I've been waiting for something like this. Let's discuss." You'd rather be like, "No, you're mad. Get away from me." And when those people are being punished, they'd say, "No, no, no, just forgive me, I'll go on the right path." But the path of dependence is strong amongst all things. You'll eventually trickle back to your base habit of being a disbeliever. You see, it's ingrained. That is why we have to pray 5 times a day. And I'm not saying that I do. I miss a lot. But that is why we have to pray 5 times a day. That is why we have to fast. That is why we have to give charity. That is why we have to do the pilgrimage. And that is why we have to believe in God. These are the 5 main pillars of Islam. We have to do all of this because we need constant reinforcement. Otherwise, you could just say to a child, "Oh, you're a Muslim," and the child grows up to 18 or 21 when they're sovereign and independent. And they can say, "Yes, I'm a Muslim, full stop. I don't need to do any actions to maintain that. I don't need to do any of that." So our habits take over. "On the day when we shall seize you with the greatest seizure, punishment, verily we will exact retribution." And indeed, we tried before them, Pharaoh's people, when there came to them a noble messenger. One of my favorite people in the entire human history, Moses, saying, "Deliver to me the slaves of God, the children of Israel. Verily I am to you a messenger worthy of all trust." It's funny to me that this verse was expressed by Moses 3,000, 4,000 years ago. We're still fighting over this very subject. Today, there's a war today between Israel and Palestine. We're still fighting over that minuscule piece of land, ideologically, politically, strategically, whatever your reasoning is. But it's funny to me that the Quran, 1400 years ago, is referring to a history also 1400, 2000 years ago, and it's still about the same thing. What does that tell you about path dependence and human behavior? Civilizational history is continuous. We see it. We see it occurring. "I am to you a messenger worthy of all trust, and exalt not yourselves against God. Truly I have come to you with a manifest authority. And truly I seek refuge with my Lord and your Lord, lest you should stone me or call me a sorcerer or kill me," which they did and tried to do. "And truly I seek refuge. But if you believe me not, then keep away from me and leave me alone." But they don't leave you alone ever. They were aggressive, so Moses called upon his Lord, saying, "These are indeed the people who are mujrimun," the word we've discussed in detail before, polytheists, criminals, disbelievers. God said, "Depart you with my slaves by night, surely you will be pursued." Yes, when you leave, you will be pursued. And if you want to watch a wonderful enactment of this scene, please watch The Prince of Egypt, one of my favorite cartoons. Or watch Exodus, Gods and Kings with Christian Bale, or watch The Ten Commandments. It's a magnificent story, but indeed this happened. When Moses left with the Israelites, he was followed by Pharaoh's forces and Pharaoh. "And leave the sea as it is, quiet and divided, verily they are a host to be drowned." All I have to say, I've said this many times before, but this is one of my favorite events of human history, when Moses parted the Red Sea through God's command. And indeed it parted and they passed through and Pharaoh's forces were drowned. How many of gardens and springs that they, the Pharaoh, left behind, and green crops, fields, and goodly places, and comforts of life wherein they used to take delight? Exactly. You can think that you're going to live forever, like we all do. I'll be very honest. I'm not, more often than not, I'm not thinking about death. I'm busy in my life. It is only when one prays, when one reads the Quran, when one um, what's the word to observes? When one observes something greater than oneself, like gigantic lightning in the sky, or rainfall that can fill the streets. Like, in fact, I was just thinking yesterday, because I live in Montreal. Montreal's an island. What if it starts raining today and it doesn't stop? Today's a Saturday. What if it keeps raining for a week? Just in Montreal, just a week. Our drainage systems aren't so well designed that they can cater to that. The roads will be filled with water, everything, houses will. And I started thinking, I thought, we have built this impossible infrastructure. We've built all these cities which are so susceptible to natural forces that we don't even see them. Even God-fearing people like myself, even I didn't consider that. But when I pray, when you pray, you can step away from worldly activities, and you can think about God, and you can think about the universe. And when you fast, and when you read the Quran, then you realize that so many things have happened in the world, and it's a very precarious balance. The smallest thing can knock the entire ecosystem over. An earthquake, God protect us all, but an earthquake, small earthquake, a tremor, could topple buildings. We have spent months and years building these structures. An earthquake toppled buildings. Happened in Pakistan in 2005. My family was there. Parts of my family were in the buildings, which toppled in 2005. Yeah. 7 was the floods. Thus it was, and we made other people inherit them. We made the children of Israel inherit the kingdom of Egypt. And the heavens and the earth wept not for them, nor were they given a respite. And indeed we saved the children of Israel from the humiliating torment, from Pharaoh. Verily he was arrogant and was of the Musrifun, those who transgress the bounds and spend and commit great sins. And we chose them, children of Israel, above the Alameen, mankind and jinn, during the time of Moses, with knowledge. So they were very looked after. Bani Israel were very well looked after, and granted them signs in which there was a plain trial. Verily, these people are saying, these people now, it says Quraysh. Quraysh is a word that I haven't really used much in my sessions. It refers to the people of Muhammad, peace be upon him, the people there in that time. In Arabic or Urdu, they call Quraysh Makkah, the Quraysh of Makkah. And now you're talking about the Israelites, and suddenly, this is how God talks, right? He talks in metaphors and allegories, and suddenly he can make a very quick comparison, which he's done here. Verily, these people are saying there is nothing but our first death, and we shall not be resurrected. Then bring back our forefathers if you speak the truth. Yes. I constantly make the case that were it being done in good faith, then a lot of their points fit the scientific method. The only distinction here is that it is not being done in good faith. So they're not saying, Muhammad, you're making some very interesting claims. I'm keen to understand more and learn more. Could you show me something? And the Prophet would say, well, I can split the moon in half, and I can do this and I can do that. Okay, you have demonstrated that there is something metaphysical, supernatural supporting you or who you're following, and I would be willing to relinquish my comfortable past system of beliefs, and I'm happy to follow you. That would be the scientific method. You have been confronted with enough evidence for you to change your position. It's not all poetry and stories. You have to consider the source, very importantly. It is Muhammad, peace be upon him. It isn't me. I could not carry that burden. Only the great Prophet can. He's the most trustworthy man in your city, in your neighborhood, in your community, society. And if that person is saying that matters, and he is also demonstrating certain miracles, which as a Muslim I believe happened. So the scientific method would do that. If in good faith, these people are not doing it in good faith. Bring back our forefathers if you speak the truth. It's more of a challenge. Are the better or the people of Tubba or Sheba and those before them? We destroyed them because they were indeed mujrimun, again that term. And we created the heavens and the earth and all that is between them for mere play. This means things have a purpose. A very interesting footnote happening at the bottom. We created them not except with truth, to examine and test those who are obedient and those who are disobedient, and then reward the obedient ones and punish the disobedient. But most of them know not. I actually believe that this test that is taking place, that God puts us through, isn't really for God to see who is the believer or disbeliever. Because if you are atemporal, or what's the word? Anachronistic, if you are out of time, if time doesn't apply to you, which is God, because you created time and space, for you, time is a dot. For us, it is a line in multiple dimensions, right? So for us, it is happening. For you, everything is. There is no future because God is beyond time. So I don't think God is testing us for his sake. I think God is testing us for our sake, for us to see, for us to take the journey. You see what I mean? Because as the Spirit is blown into us, which is Nur, which is God's light, we all carry the divine Spirit within us, which is Nur, Ruh. And that is our consciousness. That is why we are awake and alive. And that is why we are going through the experience of space-time on the planet. So the test is more for us. How will I do? Rather than God saying, oh, I made Ali 37 years ago. I'm so curious to see what happens with him. No, God knows. God knows. And God has constructed multiple structures for me to go through, successfully or unsuccessfully, but the structures have been created by God, dynamic structures. So I don't believe that God is putting us through a test so he can find out. I think it's for us to find out. Verily, the day of judgment, when God will judge between the creatures, is the time appointed for all of them, the day when a Mawla, a near relative, cannot avail a Mawla, a near relative, in aught, and no help can they receive except him on whom God is mercy. Verily, he is the Almighty, the most merciful. This is true. This is true. My mum used to describe it that, look how much I love you and care for you now, but on the day of judgment, I'll be running after my own life, and you'll be running after your own. We see that even today. If that is hard for you to believe, just look at the world today. In case of an earthquake or a flood or a tsunami, or in case of a gunshot being fired, most people forget who they're with and they start running. If you don't want to believe that, I was in Mecca last year in March, and I remember I was with my dad and my brothers and his son, my nephew, and four of us were standing waiting to go in to where we do the encirclement, the tawaf. And I remember when the movement was allowed, okay, go, people just started running. And for me, my father's safety is more important than getting there 5 seconds earlier. Who could care less? So I created like an arms protection against him, and I was pushing people away because it's my dad, obviously I would. But at that time, you could see that people had come together, fathers, sons, uncles, cousins, brothers, just separated. Everyone was like, oh, I'm going to go. And there's no rush. There's no fire behind you to do so. You just run in. Without that motivation, you're still behaving in that manner. Imagine a sale at a store. When you see a proper sale, when the doors actually open, people run inside. They don't say, come, let's go. We are going together. They just say, I'll meet you there. And they run in. So when there's an actual torment on you, can you really claim that, oh no, I'll still care about my family? Oh no, I'll still look after my mother and my wife and my kids and my husband? Verily, the tree of Zakum will be the food of the sinners. This is the tree in hell. We've talked about it before. Like the boiling oil, it will boil in their bellies. Like the boiling of scalding water. It will be said, seize him and drag him into the midst of blazing fire, then pour over his head the torment of boiling water. Taste you this, verily you are pretending to be the mighty, the generous. See, it is so graphic because he is God and he is the greatest author and he is the greatest poet. When he describes it, you feel it. I feel it. And this is a translation of the original text in a language which is foreign to me. Like I learned this language. I wasn't born in it. And still I'm feeling it in my throat. Verily, this is that whereof you used to doubt. I pray for myself, my family, all the Muslims in the world, and if God allows, all of humankind that exists, has existed, and will exist, for none of us to be put through this torment. And just reading it, I feel it. You know what I mean? And I understand that God writes everyone's fate and so forth. But just as a humble Muslim servant, I pray that none of us has to go through this. It's severe. Taste you this, verily you were pretending to be the mighty, the generous. Verily this is that whereof you used to doubt. Verily the muttaqun, the pious, will be in the place of security and paradise. I hope we are all one of the muttaqun, among gardens and springs, dressed in fine silk and also in thick silk, facing each other. Other chapters have said, facing each other on thrones. I think I referred to it before. So it will be, and we shall marry them to hur, fair females with wide, lovely eyes. Now, this word is heavily discussed because of the politicization of Islam on a global scale, terrorism being tied to it. People have always questioned, the 72 virgins, the hur, what will the men get, what will the women get? People have talked about it all the time. So I am not an expert on the subject matter, but if you do look at it in more detail, it is actually an amalgamation of two words, which applies to for men and for women. And there's a lot more detail than, a man's going to go and 72 virgins are going to be waiting for him. That's not the correct description. And because it does not add to this chapter, I'm not going to dive deep into it. But I'm just going to look at the footnote. Not from the offspring of Adam, with intense black irises and intense black color for detail. Al-Arwah. Yeah, so it's in one of the books. Yeah. So I'm not going to dive into that right now. But it's not only for men. That is one of the most important points. And there's a lot more detail about what happens after death. And I don't think we should even be concerned about that. For me, I just want to be a good, pious Muslim today. Everything that happens after is not my motivation. I'm going to do this so I can wear silk and gold and sit on a throne. This is the image being shown to these people that this is also part of it. But I would rather just follow the religion because God has told me to, and my Prophet has told me to. Because a lot of this is question, how do we know what's happening after, what's happening before? And I trust it because God says so. But I think your motivation has to be because you believe the word. And that is it. The word makes sense to you and you value it because God said so. They will call therein for every kind of fruit in peace and security. They will never taste death therein except the first death of this world. And he will save them from the torment of the blazing fire as a bounty from your Lord that will be the supreme success. Certainly, we have made this Quran easy in your tongue in order that they may remember. Wait then, O Muhammad, verily they too are waiting. Sadaqallah wal Azim. exactly 30 minutes, exactly half an hour. I'm glad I was able to finish Surah Dukhan in one sitting. You see, it's not the longest of chapters. It's in fact quite straightforward. It follows the same rhyme, meter, same rhetoric, same narrative as a few chapters preceding. It's following the same structure, some details, some examples, some details, some example, um, which leads us to believe that the message is being reinforced. There's not a lot of new message being added to it. It's being reinforced, crafted, finalized, packaged. So every time you recite it, you're hearing something new. Imagine if somebody is reciting one of their poems to you, and then they recite the same message in another poem, and then in another poem. After a while, the poems start entering you emotionally, mentally, and the message from every different angle starts becoming your reality, right? So I think that is the device that is being used here. But I'm going to stop here because 30 minutes is a long time. Surah Duhan, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a lovely weekend. And for people in Canada, I hope you have a wonderful Monday, which is the day off.